Welcome back to Backends and Databases. In the last sessions, we did talk about a few things. And as always, this course is not so much about introducing you to all the techniques and details. It's more about talking about technology, getting to know piece by piece through hands-on examples. So let's sum up a bit what we learned so far. Who of you is keen to explain the relationship between the user wanting to access a website and a database that will have all the data that the user is keen on working on? So what needs to be done in order to achieve, for example, someone doing a request on Google? Can anyone sum up the information we got at the last two meetings? All right, then let me phrase this a little bit different. How do we get data from the database? Daniel, can you sum up what do you think? How can we access the database and get data from there?
Sorry, I wasn't here for the first session, but I think we should, for the website to work properly, we should get some information from the user, from the front end, and uh, transfer it to the backend for more infos to work as a database. But just this, not more.
Yeah, that's a good start. Thank you. Anyone else can explain how all of these work together? Merschat, feel free to explain in German or
Yeah, sure.
English.
Uh, do, do you have my sound?
Yeah, we hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So when someone, as the user, I don't know, like this guy, use some websites, there is a user interface that we call it frontend, and this user interface can connect to backend via some different languages like Python, and backend can communicate with the database and server. So basically, when the user asks for like google.com, the data will be transferred via internet, go to servers, go to backend, and from there go to servers, and then the requested data will come back to user from this path.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Thanks for your explanation. I want to sum up some of the things you said and put them so they are absolutely correct. So as you said, the backend is accepting data that is coming from the front end. So someone visits a website, let's say google.com, that's the front end. And of course, also that is um, is hosted on a server. So there's a server that knows the front end, such as google.com. And the request from the user goes then from the front ends to um, to the backend. So what the backend does, it does calculations. So it needs to understand um, what what the heck does the user want, right? That's the role of the backend. If the backend understands the user needs data, the user will the backend will ask the database to get the required data. Yeah, we'll ask the backend, we'll ask the database to get the required data. Then the database will give back the data to the backend, and finally we'll give back the data to the front end, and that's what the user is capable of reading, because that's the nature of a front end, of a website in this case. It's displaying data. It's displaying information that a user can actually read. You did mention backend technology. What kind of technology? Let's make an example. What kind of technology can we use in the front end? Yalda, please tell us some front end technologies that come to mind. Okay, sorry I can't hear you, but maybe Sajad, could you tell us some front-end technologies that come to mind that you have in the back of your head?
Hallo, vielleicht CSS, HTML oder Java vielleicht.
Fast richtig, es ist JavaScript. Sehr gut, hast du sehr gut gemacht. Wir haben eine Meldung. Sorry, my voice was not clear. Yalda, no, sorry, I didn't hear you at all. Maybe you can, Yalda, maybe you can unmute. Does that work? Because I think your microphone is still muted, Yalda. Yeah. You were almost there. You were unmuted for a second. All right. At any point you want to add something, you can try again. For now, I couldn't hear you. Database. What kind of technologies could we use for database? Someone? Erfan, would you like to tell us database technologies that come to mind?
Yes, I think SQL database and non-SQL database. I think.
What was the first one that you said?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
What was the
Please
first
repeat.
database that you said?
SQL and non-SQL.
SQL.
Sorry. Relational database and non-relational database.
Right, we have relational databases and non-relational databases.
Yes.
Do you have an example for a relational database technology?
Yes, SQL, MySQL, MongoDB, Oracle, and so on.
So MySQL would be a relational database, and MongoDB, as you mentioned earlier, would be a non-relational database. Very good.
Yes. Thank you.
I like that. Like to hear that. Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there were also different kinds of databases that we were talking about. And there was, for example, the SQL database. I will go back to the example we had about relational databases. We look into it. Relational database basically works with a table, with multiple tables maybe, and you can join them. So for example, here we created two tables, one with Backend Frameworks and one with popular projects that are using frameworks. So there's a cross-referencing mechanism in relational database. So there is the one table that is referred by the other. So in this case, for example, we have the backend frameworks, and they are linked. They are in relation to the popular projects. So there are popular projects like, let's say, MySpace, right? MySpace is one project that is written in a certain backend technology, and we are by defining their relationships, we can refer them to each other. That's the nature of a relational database. We're not gonna go too much into detail on relational databases anymore, but we'll talk a bit more about backends. Milika, would you like to tell me a bit about backends that come to mind?
Yeah, okay. I can explain a little bit about database, and I'm not sure it's correct or not, but okay.
Okay.
Database backend. I'm sorry. The backend in programming refers to the hidden part of the system that runs on the server, managing data, processing, and logic operations, facilitating communications between user and database, I think. Huh?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you for the very good definition. I want to add real quick that backends do, in general, make complex calculations. So it's correct, it's the hidden part of the software that people don't see. So it's not something as a user you perceive usually. However, it's not always necessary that we access a database. That's one function that a backend can do. In many cases, that's the case, that's what's happening. But in general, it's about doing calculations. Sajat, any backend frameworks that come to mind?
MySQL.
That's a
That's it.
database technology. So if you're writing a backend, which language would you use? Python. Did I hear Python? So for example, Python is a language that you can use for programming a backend. There are many more. There's C#, there's Golang, JavaScript, Java, TypeScript, Node.js, Ruby, many, many, many. Don't worry, the moment you touch one language and learn how to write that well, it gets easier to transfer between languages. It's like learning any other language. Learning by doing, is key, trying is key, and the moment you are fluent in one, the second one is more easy. Same with more and more languages. If I'm right, at least you're talking your third language at the moment, natural language. So you all know Farsi, you all know how to speak English, you're in the process of learning German. Trust me, after the third one, it gets way more easy. And the same concept applies to programming languages. No, we didn't go into detail on a specific programming language. This is not a real foundational course where you can learn every detail. I'm trying to get you to the goal of programming with backends and database as fast as possible. So we're skipping a lot of foundational things, but you'll get going in no time. And later, of course, you will have to repeat and go thoroughly in details. But the method we're using here is more based on exposure. So, what is a framework? A backend framework? We were talking about the languages now, right? It's a different term. So, what is a framework and what is a language in terms of programming? Do you have an idea?
I think a framework where in a specific language.
A framework is written in a specific language. Did I hear you right?
Is a place that we write in a specific language in it.
Okay. Other definitions?
Can we say a platform for using a language as the proper way?
Okay, interesting.
Help.
Programming framework, better to say, helps provide the required support and guides to speed up your development process, I think.
Okay, that's a good one too. I will sum up later. Yalda,
Uh,
you want to say something too?
help us create a server much more easier and with a lot less code. Um,
Yeah, lovely. Really good definitions out there. Thank you for summing it up. As I said last session, computer science is a lot like many other sciences. They base a lot on people's previous work, right? As humans, we are very unique because we can work together. And in computer science, especially in software development, you can see that clearly because you rely heavily on someone else's work. Trust me, I don't know how to disassemble and reassemble my computer. Not in the tiniest parts that it consists of, because there are many, many tiny parts. So, same thing with software. We rely on someone's work. That someone's work is, of course, creating a programming language, but then with the programming language, we also don't have to reinvent the wheel that is how to write a backend. No. The backend frameworks, they give us the framework, give us the suitable tools, basically a tool set that enables us to build a framework with less code, as Yelda said, and also applying standards that are already out there. So this will enable us as we speak here today, in the next 30 minutes, to work on actual code on an actual framework. Isn't that great? So we work on a backend and get it running. That is the nature of the code I provided the last time. So the last time I did provide a backend service that you can use in your browser. Okay, someone might ask like, hey, wasn't the backend supposed to be hidden and we shouldn't be able to see it? Well, almost. What we have here is environment where we can work on a backend in the browser. It's a special software. It's called replit.com. It's a great way to work on code but stay in the browser. So it enables us to work together, but also for you not to have to set up your local environment system immediately. So this is a great thing for workshops and for sharing and trying out stuff.
I got a question.
Yes.
Excuse me. Which languages can we work on this frame?
So this software, this portal, replit.com, supports many languages. Now we will use Python, but there are many languages that you can use here. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. All right. So this is a backend, a very simple one, the one I provided last time. And in today's workshop, we will go through, I will explain a bit what we did here. And also I gave you some tasks that you can work on, and we'll go with you through the solutions for those tasks. Can I have okay, please, the ones who did the exercises given, please write something in the chat so I know who did the exercise before and who didn't get the chance to. All right. Then we can do the exercises together. That's the good news. And I know all of you, many of you are not familiar with writing code in this sense. That's why we can do it together now. And I wanna give you the opportunity to work with code, but just try it out. You don't have to know everything. We tried our best to imitate what we read and then just do it basically. All right. So the exercises given were to enhance the backend service we have here. All right. So what we see is the Python code provided. Please tell me, what do you see? What can you read here? What is this code doing?
Shall I?
Yes.
I think this actually is a connection between database and the front end part of the website that connected and uses the flask um, to build a connection between SQL database and uh, front end section. You see.
Okay. Any other ideas what we are doing here? What this is?
I guess it's using a tiny DB databases and uses different API. For example, get, post, delete, update.
Yes. Very good. So these are the core things this backend code does. It connects to a TinyDB database, which is a file-based database. So it is a database that has documents inside. Where we are, maybe you remember, we have different sorts of NoSQL databases. One of them is the document store. Such a document is, for example, this. This is a document. So one of these documents has a name, a link, the benefits, and the popular projects. So it's basically a little dictionary of frameworks. What we have here, it's a file-based database in JSON format. And this backend code, it connects to the database. In this case, it's just a file that we read and write from. And it gets the frameworks, and it does read from this database. And we have, as you said earlier, we have the different types of we have the different types of operations here. We have create, read, update, delete. So if we are looking at this request out of create, read, update, delete, what is this? What kind of operation do we have here?
This is
Can you say that again?
get, I think. It's written in the first line.
It's get, but if you would have to categorize in create, read, update, delete.
These are a list of different types of requests that backend allows to call.
Absolutely
It
correct.
calls API.
Yes, Yalda, thank you. These are, sorry, I think this was from you, Yalda.
Yeah.
These are API requests. However, we have these types of operations: create, read, update, delete, CRUD, so-called CRUD operations. If we look at this, what is happening here? We're getting all frameworks. So a get request is reading all the requests. So we have the read operation. Let me show you. So I said I want to read all frameworks. Then I go here, check what is the host and what is the port. Port 5000, the host is 000. So if I just send a get request to this URL, what do you think I will get?
The IDs of the frameworks table.
Let's try it out. I will run my backend code and you see how it's running. And then I will send the requests I just said. And I get this text. Welcome to Backends and Database Workshop. Then I look up in my code and it says, welcome to Backends and Databases Workshop. But why didn't I get a list of all the frameworks? Any ideas?
Because you didn't give the order to get the frameworks.
How do I give the order?
You have to give the order get or read.
I do have get here. What else is missing? So up here we have definitions about the URLs, the roots. You see there's the root slash, there's the root framework and another root framework. Then we also have the methods, right? Get, post, get. Here it's basically missing the actual roots. So I hit send and what it does, it then gives me this request. It gets all the frameworks from the table, and what it does, it adds IDs, because naturally in our database, as you see here, there's no ID in the document. Just a little detail, don't worry about it. However, now this code is going to our database, looking up all the documents, and it is getting the specific or all the documents and displaying them to us. All right, great. There's another request. It says here the framework adding. So the post. What is post supposed to do? Or other than that, what is post in terms of the CRUD operations? Is it create, read, update, or delete?
It is for create,
Create.
Yes.
to
Yes,
create
very
something
good.
new, to add to our database.
So to add a document. This again is a document and I want to add one. So we have this little helper tool here and we can set I want to post something to my server to the API endpoint framework. So I want to add a framework. I want to post a framework. I want to create a framework. What I do is in the message body, I add a document with the content type application JSON. And now I can add any sort of framework. Say Happy is a framework, and I'm not sure what it could be with Spotify. I'm not entirely sure. Just making an example. All right, so I'm ready to post new data to my database. Of course, I can't interact directly with the database because it's a file, right? So I'm playing front end right now. I'm basically this. What we see here is what the front end would do. So I'm sending a document to my backend, and my backend should know what to do with it. So I said, this is just a description, so I can say add framework, and I say post. I have the URL, I have the document as a JSON, and that's it. I hit send, and my backend server says, great, data added successfully. Now, where is this data? How can I see if what I did worked other than the message I got here? Any ideas?
By giving the order get again.
Okay. Hit me. What do I have to do?
So you give the order get in the directory of framework, and now it shows you the new things in the framework.
So I would have to edit the method, the HTTP method. Remember the HTTP? HTTP is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. I hit get, so I have a get request to get all frameworks. This is just a description, and I hit send, and now I have a list of all the frameworks, including the one with the name Happy. Great. Oh, there was another one too. All right. So I did add this framework. That's great. So now the next task we're gonna do together is update a specific request. All right. We have create, delete, read, update. What HTTP method do I need to use to make an update? So which method do I need to use here? What do you say?
Good.
Put. I will try that. Yes, it's put, exactly. It is the put method. So if I'm asking my backend, then if I want to tell like my backend, please update this entry. How does my backend know which one? Any suggestions? How can I tell my backend which framework it should update? So we have a few things to talk with to express our needs, our commands to the backend. One is the method, right? We have the put method. Then we have the host, so basically our server, and at which port it is running. So we know how to contact the backend per se. However, then we say what we are talking about. We're talking about frameworks, right? And now we can go more specific. We can, for example, give an ID. So let's say I want to update the first framework, or let's say the 22nd, the one we just added. What we can do to do this is basically define here a parameter, and it works like this. So the framework will now know, great, we can expect a certain set of data using the put request with this parameter. Give me a second, I will look something up. All right. So what we will do to make this work is I did prepare this code, so I don't have to write it in detail. Yes. What we will do is we will define a parameter. So we're talking about a specific framework that we want to edit. And this framework has an ID. So we will put a new definition, something, a JSON object that we will be working with. All right. I did copy paste this code and will explain it to you what is happening here. But first, take some time and try to take in what this method is about. What does it do in detail? Take a moment and read, and we will talk about it. Okay. What do you think, Daniel? What is happening here?
Sorry, Mr. Mark, I have no experiences with Python. I'm just learning.
No, I understand, but
no idea.
this is about trying to read. It's like exposure to a new language. Same. I'm not asking you about previous experience. It's just in the end, Python code, as any code, is code that will help us to explain ourselves to the computer. So we are transmitting our commands to the computer. These are all somehow naturally written using human language. So that's why I'm asking you. I know it's tough at the beginning. What do you see? What do you get from here? Maybe Yalda, you want to explain what you see here? What happens within this method of update entry?
Actually, I can explain. I don't know.
Okay.
I know something, but I can't explain. I don't know the exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Read request from the databases, and you can you found a data on a table, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the data is true, you update the data by the ID. Otherwise, it's error messages, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Very good try. It's really the exercise we're doing here. Of course, you will learn coding, but you can learn coding on the internet. But I want you to understand that talking about it as early as possible and being able to explain yourself is key for getting a job in this field. It's more important than actual coding skills. The moment you understand and practice this, you will elevate your job chances 100%. That's why I am throwing you into ice cold water and letting you explain code that you don't understand. However, I'm gonna go through a bit what we see here. So we are getting the request data. So as you see here, I want to give a request to our backend server, and this data is in this object. We say request.json, and we have the data in our data variable. And basically what we do then is say like, okay, how many objects are there in the frameworks table? We define the length of the frameworks table. Now we know how many objects are in there. If we look at the table, there are a lot of objects, and we want to make sure when we get a request to update one of the objects, we want to make sure we can address the certain object. So we want to make sure our object count, the amount of objects in the database, is smaller than the ID, the identifier, the identifying number of the document that should be updated. If we look here, we have document 1. If we want to update document 1, no problem, that's fine. But then we'll go on and we see we have just so many documents, 22 documents. If we were to update the framework number 44, we wouldn't be able to update it. That's why we're asking, is the object count bigger than the ID? If yes, that's great. The ID is smaller. The ID is not bigger than the last object of the table, so we can actually update something, right? That's why we have this error message. What we have here is a condition, right? We are checking, can we actually find the document? Does our database support that? If that's the case, we will try, as it says here, we will try to update the document with the document ID that is provided, right? The ID that we got from our request, the ID that is here. So and yes, that's about it. If that was successful, we will send framework updated successfully. Great, let's try it out. So we want to update the framework number 22 that we just saw in our database, and let's say we say we send a post request to the framework 22, and when we look in our database, our file-based database, document 22 is happy, goes by the name of happy. All right, that we can overwrite, and then it says 404 not found. That's too bad. So what we didn't work now. Let me see if I can find the error real quick. Oh, okay, we need to restart the server because this functionality is new. Then of course only then can we address the server. So it gives us an error message. It says the index 22 provided is bigger than the last element of the database 22. I think I did a little error here because that should still be okay. All right, framework updated successfully. So what we see in the database now is the request we just got, that we just sent to the server, updating the 20-second document, was successful. So I know a lot of things you didn't, never practiced, and all this code is new, all that. But together we will do now this exercise to be able to delete a framework. All right. Going back here. Create, read, update, delete. Backends and databases, in the terms that we use as full stack developers, we usually need to take care of those 4 operations: create, read, update, delete, and their HTTP methods in the HTTP protocol: post, get, put, delete. So let's say we want to not update an entry but delete an entry. Guide me a bit. Mershad, what do we need to change first to be able to delete a specific framework?
If I'm not mistaken, the first thing you should change is the method.
That's great. We use another HTTP method. As I showed earlier, we have the different HTTP methods, and one of them is actually called delete. They're always written in capital letters, by the way. So I did that. I did update the method. Then what else do we need to do to delete a certain entry?
I think there are different types of delete, like delete one or delete many. So we can delete a specific one or many other frameworks.
Let's say we delete one, only one with the ID that is given in a request. Let's say we focus on that. What do we need to change in this code? Arfan, do you have a suggestion?
Sorry, do you call me?
Do you have a suggestion, Arfan, which lines of code do we need to change to be able to delete an entry?
I think in the frameworks, the underline table dot update, think it should be changed.
Sorry, did you
It
mean
should be changed.
this line?
Yes, update syntax, I think.
Exactly. So it is not update, right? It should be delete, right? We're interacting with the
Yes.
frameworks table, right? When we think of this table, what does need to happen in this table? We will need to look up a document by the number 22 or any other by a number, by its ID, identifier, and we want to delete it. So as I said, we are trying to we're using the TinyDB implementation, and we just basically just have to say something like delete. In this case, you can't know it because you don't know TinyDB, but it is in this case remove. But in the end, it's natural language that we use here, and I want you to understand that. And in this case, we just need to understand which name we go by here. It is frameworks table dot remove, and then what we need to do is just say which document IDs we need to remove. The document ID is provided in the request up here. In this case, the document ID here, ID, is being removed. That's pretty much what we need to change. Also, of course, we should let the user know what we're doing. So when we're having error messages, they should reflect what we're doing. So that's pretty much what we needed to change to be able to delete an entry. Let's try it out then. Let's say the entry 22 needs to be deleted. We don't need to send data like we did before, because the only data we send is like which framework do we want to delete. We check here in the database the document number 22, and we send the request, and it says not allowed. Okay, I think I need to restart the server again. And now unsupported media type, delete. Okay. Not quite sure. Framework. Yeah, we don't need the data. So our framework is deleted successfully. We did a delete operation, checking back in the backend, and we don't see object number 22 anymore. So this is what our backend is doing. It is having different sorts of operations that are available through an API, application programming interface. We're providing an interface for our backend. Our backend is doing all the calculation and checking and speaking to our database. In this case, our database is a simple file and it has many objects in it.
I'm sorry. These databases, you said this database is a file, yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe we should download it from somewhere, or we should code it by ourselves.
In this case, you can. I'm going to show you in Slack. I did provide the file or the whole project already. So if you click this link, I will show you what happens. Oops. No, I didn't want to do that. If you click that link in Slack, you get to the Replit website. And what you see there is the code we were just working on. Give me a second for it to load. However, you need to click here, fork and run. And once you did that, you can basically create your own copy of that code. And it does have the database already in there. So it doesn't load right now, but trust me, once you hit fork and run, you will have the same files as I do. You will have the database and you have the main py with the backend and all the other two files that are also necessary to run that. So go to Slack, read through all the materials provided, and you will be able to start your own backend in your browser. I did give these exercises already where you can work on your own code, and there are also materials on how to use that. I will give you one more hint, because this API request tester, is an extension, and this extension I did link here. I'm going to put it also in the in Slack, so you can install this for your own Replit account. However, you will need a Replit account. Other questions?
Thank you so much, sir.
No, not really.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Make sure to do the tasks that I sent last week. Just try it out, and when you hit rock bottom and you don't go forward because you just can't do it in a way, write me a message. That's what we're here for.
Sorry, where can we see the tasks?
In Slack. Sorry, you don't. I didn't share my whole screen. I'm very sorry. Give me a second. So, all of you are in Slack, if I'm right. If not, Isan will provide you with an invitation. In Slack, I do write. You find the link of today's of the Miro board, and also all the videos we were watching about backends. You should definitely rewatch them. And then also from last sessions, I did provide the examples, the example that we were just working on today, and material that you can review to understand a bit better what you're doing. Then also the exercises that I gave you that you can work on. And what I just shared with you, there's also the video from last session, and what I just shared with you is the extension for Replit, so you can test your API, the extension we just saw here. Of course, I'm gonna also share the video from today's session, so you can rewatch and work on your own projects, on the exercises.